All right, Mikhail Kasyanov is the former prime minister of Russia, and he joins us now from outside of Russia. Mikhail, first of all, just your impressions over what has been a seismic event inside Russia, an armed rebellion by the Wagner group.
Yeah, of course, it was unpredictable in such a scale and in such a manner. And that was absolutely unique event, and that's what we see already. Just we can make a judgment that the main result is the main conclusion is that Putin's stability he kept and tried to ensure the whole population for 23 years. Putin's stability appeared to be just fragile. There is no stability, just even a military mutiny is possible. That's absolutely incredible and unexpected. That's what the conclusion number one. Conclusion number two is that in fact there were no people in the streets in support of President Putin. Putin claiming that he got just absolute support, like 86 or whatever % of population or voters, but no one just was on the street. We can compare and can recall just military coup in Turkey. And we remember just whether we like Erdogan or not, but thousands of people appeared in the streets just in support of his rule. In Russia, nothing of that happened. Moreover, people in Rostov-Don, which is 1 million people population, just greeted Wagner.
So I wanted to ask you, they greeted them, they took pictures with them. Why? I mean, why would they greet them so positively?
My conclusion is that Putin, first, that there are two aspects on that. First, people already fed up, tired, already fatigued. Putin already just quite too much of Putin for 23 years, and that's issue number one. And secondly, people for 23 years already used to get and used to behave as Putin wanted. No consolidation, no collective action in any case. Just sit at your kitchens and just watch my television propaganda. Propaganda couldn't provide anything. During these 2 days, they were shocked. They didn't know what to do. That's why just its conclusion, the main conclusion is this, that Putin demonstrated weakness of himself, or just his authority was undermined considerably, and weakness of the whole system of Putin's system. State institutions don't work, but some kind friendly groups, military friendly groups, could have a dispute, could have a fight just among themselves. That was already just beginning of general, I would say, collapse of the regime, and people already watching this. And the most important that people in inner circle, just people working on different levels of governments, in federal government and regional governments, they understand that Putin not anymore just moderator or protector of their interests. They're simply weak, just weak leader who now just looked more like fanatic rather than just solid and I would say successful leader.
You worked in the Kremlin. You spent your life in Russia. What happens in a system as brutal as the Russian system can be to somebody who appears weak? What happens to them?
I think that's the most important thing. That nothing will happen tomorrow or day after, but the general attitude to Mr. Putin, people will start reconsidering their attitude. As I said, the most important that is the people working in the governments, on different level of governments, regional and federal. They would just reconsider this, and they will not implement just some kind of strong order if it's necessary for Putin to issue, as he did yesterday. He already demonstrated what could be. The main tool of operating Mr. Putin ruling the country, this FSB. People live in Russia just because of the fear that FSB controls everything. It's Putin's main instrument, and just everyone could be punished tomorrow for non-loyal behavior to Putin. And that is And what happened yesterday. In the morning, Putin made a very strong statement that all these traitors should be arrested and punished. And just FSB issued a criminal case and started just trying to arrest Prigozhin. In the evening, Putin canceled all of this. FSB, it's not just I would say a simple tool. FSB, it's not some kind of puppet. That is corporation. That's not authoritarian organization. That's corporation, and Putin is part of this corporation. And now they will never forget this, and I think they will not forgive him such a behavior and attitude to corporation. And that's what the most important thing. I think just the cracks already started to appear and a major tool of Putin's rule.
Is it naive to think that Prigozhin was acting alone and that he stood up and moved into Rostov-on-Don and then further towards Moscow without help from some military leaders, mid-ranking military, and possibly from the FSB itself? Because this is an organization that operates all over the world. A lot of people think it's in sort of a shadow and a cushion for Russian authorities to operate, not in name, but under the Wagner name. Did he have some? Do you think that this was a larger conspiracy?
No, that's not, absolutely not, because of the simple reason. Prigozhin was a friend of Putin, just his assistant, whatever, just cook, chef, whatever, assistant on many things. And he also was a tool in his hands, just working in Africa and this Wagner group, and just achieving some kind of goals Putin wanted to get, and Libya too, and many other countries, and here in the war against Ukraine too. That's why he appeared there in Russia. It is illegal to have such an organization under Russian laws. It is illegal, and Prigozhin and Putin know very well that just the Wagner existence in Russia is illegal activity. That's issue number one. Issue number two. Prigozhin doesn't want to change. He doesn't want to change Putin. Doesn't want just to change authority. He wanted money. He was promised good money and didn't waited for a long time and didn't get it. And that's why he was so angry. And he raised the stakes in this game. And he played too high and too rash. Mr. Putin doesn't forgive such a play against him. Of course, right now, Prigozhin could be seen as a winner of this, because he got what he wanted, just maybe a truck of money, of cash, black cash, and just left Russia, but and without any arrest, etc. But I think in the nearest future we will see that Prigozhin will be punished. In which way, I don't know. Maybe even simply liquidated, because Putin will never forgive such a behavior. Of course, he understands just different friendly groups in the power, and legal, like just all agencies, illegal agencies with the arms in hands, and illegal like Prigozhin, they could somehow fight, and that was one of the way for Putin just to divide and rule. But Prigozhin overplayed. And that's what, for that he will be punished, and Putin will not forgive. But Putin already got just undermined reputation, and of course he is being seen right now by many as a weak leader, and not really a system is not really strong.
You say that Putin will punish Prigozhin, maybe liquidate him. But where was Putin? I mean, it took him like 14 hours even to come up and appear on television while this was going on. Then his presidential plane took off towards St. Petersburg and disappeared off radars. He hasn't popped up. It is now, as we're doing this interview, it's now Monday. We still haven't heard from President Putin anywhere. None of the Kremlin inner circle have said anything. Shoigu showed up in a few photographs, supposedly on the front line of Ukraine. I mean, this looks like the Kremlin leadership with Putin, at the tip of the spear, is completely absent.
Yeah, it doesn't. Their disappearance and not appearing right now and giving explanation, it doesn't surprise me much. And even look on Friday and Saturday, just we see just Minister of Defense didn't inform anything, just on this column, just moving just to Rostov and then Voronezh, and then to Moscow. No information. The propaganda, the central television propaganda, just was shocked. They kept silence. They didn't know what to say because they had no instructions. The system works on an instruction basis. There were no instructions. Putin didn't know what to do. He wanted to stop this, but he couldn't. But he couldn't do this until he found just the instrument of negotiating with Prigozhin, who is a friend of Putin and friend of Prigozhin. That is Mr. Dumin, now governor of Tula region, but before he was a general in a general staff on the Ministry of Defense, and before that he was a personal bodyguard of Mr. Putin.
Right. This guy was Putin's personal bodyguard, and rumors are he could even be replacing Shoigu as the defense minister.
And this guy just negotiated with Prigozhin all this deal. He negotiated, not Lukashenko. Lukashenko was frontman, just and the guarantor that Prigozhin could come to Belarus, and that's it looks the whole event looks like just a dispute between just two bandits, and finally just resolved in this way. No single state institution was involved in settling this problem. Just different groups just settled and discussed and settled their interests in their own way. And now just population doesn't know what happened. Of course, Putin will appear, if not today, maybe tomorrow, will give some kind of strange explanation so people could eat something. But the situation is such. The state authority was on a side, and some other people, we don't know who those people are, including Lukashenko, settled the problem of existence of Russian state. I don't say the Russian country, Russian state as a set of institutions. Those institutions was completely locked, didn't play any role. That is the main conclusion. Just Putin's Russia doesn't work properly or doesn't work at all. It's simply imitation of strong state. Country lives with the state institutions without activity. They don't work.
What happens to other people now watching this, people who hold power in Russia, like governors, for instance, who up until now, as you mentioned earlier in the interview, always feared the FSB. Speak out, you can be arrested. Act without Kremlin approval, you can go to jail or have your assets taken away from you. Suddenly, all of that looks pretty weak. So is this just the first of many challenges now, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And we could also note that during this period, just not all governors publicly demonstrated their loyalty to Mr. Putin. Some of them just kept silence. It means they didn't know what to do. They have no real, just I would say, wish to be on a strong support of Mr. Putin. And as expected, the most loyal governors didn't demonstrate their loyalty. That's again a demonstration. We just already mentioned just ordinary people, but no one from the I would say the ministries. No, there was no statement of prime minister. There was no statement of Minister of Defense. There was no statement of FSB director, and there was no statement of Russian guards. And that's what's the demonstration. Just the 25,000 people troops going to Moscow, and there is no information. People don't know what's going on in their country. 2 million, two cities with the population of 1 million surrendered in 10 minutes. No single attempt to fight, to protect people. People were shocked on that. Yeah.
How long has Putin got?
I think that's what's a good conclusion of this explanations. Just I think that is the beginning of Putin's end. We expected, and I mentioned to you previous interviews, that I would say great success of Ukrainian counteroffensive would trigger just the beginning of the end of Putin's regime. But Prigozhin just appeared to be ahead of this. I think he's that event, this is mutiny, whatever, just rebellion, what we saw, that's already just beginning. That's triggered just the full reconsideration of attitude to Mr. Putin by people in ruling elite and also by ordinary people. I think the attitude to Putin will change, and attitude to war against Ukraine will change, and that's what we will see. Just we're expecting success of Ukrainian counteroffensive, which will cultivate just further on all this boiling inside Russia now.
Could you comment on two main points that Prigozhin made in a video as he was mounting this rebellion? One, that the very premise for the war, that NATO was about to attack Russia or Ukraine was about to attack Russia, is false, and it was a lie by the authorities and by namely by Shoigu, the defense minister. And the second point, that he says the front lines of Russian troops are collapsing along the Zaporizhia Kherson axis, as he called it, that 1,000 soldiers, Russian soldiers, may be dying a day.
Yeah, that is of course a very direct and open statements of him. It was structured in a way that there was not Putin responsible for that. That Putin was misinformed on all of this by Shoigu and others. Just he blamed them for just misleading Putin, and Putin made this just mistake or whatever, a wrong decision or something like that. That's some kind of imitation. He was already on an emotional way to Moscow to press Shoigu so that the military supply of ammunition and whatever other things would take place, that money would flow appropriately. He wanted to be independent. He denied proposal to join to sign contract with the regular army, so to get official status. No, he wanted to be independent, but he wanted to get just money, to have independency, to have influence as a military just unit, but to be independent from any state organization. That was just overplaying. And Putin said yesterday, this ambition just was already beyond imagination. Yeah, that's what he overplayed. But that's reality. That's reality. That's what we have right now.
What happens to Wagner now? Do you think that this idea, and by the way, the details of the deal, we've only heard it from Dmitry Peskov, the main spokesman of the Kremlin, who is notoriously a little loose on facts and information, to say the least. So nobody really knows what that deal is. So the idea that Wagner is now going to be incorporated into the regular Ministry of Defense Russian troops, or that some of them are going to wind up in Belarus, nobody knows what's going to happen. Do you think this organization continues, or is it the end of it? And what is your conclusion either way in terms of its threat still to the state?
I think there is no any more threat to the state, but the future of Wagner is potentially clear. Just first, we should know that Prigozhin was not the founder of Wagner. Prigozhin joined Wagner at a later stage. Wagner existed before. Wagner was founded by former officers of GRU, Special Forces Operation Forces units. And they were not satisfied by simple life in Russia, and that's why just decided just to continue the military way understanding of life. They created this group just to make money in different countries, like South Africa, few of those countries. And I think just part of this Wagner, or basic part of Wagner, will continue to work this way. They go on to Belarus and then go to South Africa, just cooperating with the governments of African countries and being paid just successfully by that, and they will enjoy their life. That's their job, to have gun in the hands every day.
And money in their pockets. And money in their pockets.
Yeah, and money in their pocket, exactly. Other people who joined recently Wagner, if they wish to be military, they will join regular army, will sign contracts and will go there. Just few will disappear and just go back to homes, something like that. That the issue is, the main question is what will be with Prigozhin. That's what I'm saying. I could be wrong, but I know Putin a bit, that Putin will not forgive this overplaying of this pressure, public pressure. This is humiliation. Putin never had it for 23 years in rule. He never has this. And these friends allowed himself to humiliate Putin in such a tough manner that will not be forgiven. That's why Prigozhin will face with problem in the upcoming future.
Last question to you, Mikhail, and I appreciate your time. What would you say is the fallout in terms of how this will affect the front line, how this will affect the war in Ukraine?
I think they will affect, not visibly tomorrow, day after, but of course the moral state of Russian military is very low, and having this and watching this and having rumors, but there will be a lot of rumors, just how it was done, etc., etc., etc. Of course, they would undermine just their, I wouldn't say ability, they would undermine their, not wish, but just actual capability and desire to be on the front line. That's why just I think the discipline would be even lower, and that will create, I would say, additional opportunity for Ukrainian army to counteroffense. I think that's inevitable, just because they understand that the leader is not quite the leader as they thought before, and those sayings of Prigozhin you mentioned of just there was no reason to start the war or something like that. Of course, they will be discussed widely, and that's why just I think just diluting of strong defense system also appears.
And you believe that the West should take advantage of this as well in terms of helping Ukraine in a more rapid manner with weapons that it's asking for, like ATACMS and F-16s, etc.
The West should continue to support Ukraine as they promised, as much as they needed, as G7 made several times by individual statements or just as a G7 group. Absolutely clear that Ukraine defending everyone. The whole international order existing right now. Of course, that's absolutely crucial thing to do this, to support Ukraine.
Mikhail Kasyanov, the former Prime Minister of Russia. Always a great pleasure to talk to you, Mikhail. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan.